Everybody, Chris and Lumen here. We are back on the clock. I was a bit out of it yesterday. Kind of started getting a cold where I was sneezing constantly, but as promised, I did what I always do. I focused on it the way she taught me. I used the Benedict exorcism and turned it off. So, but it doesn't take effect till after you go to sleep. So, woke up today a lot better. Put on the new pendant we made yesterday. And oh my God, the information has been pouring in, and it's like super crazy interesting stuff. So it's like we have completed one whole turn on the spiral since early, about 6 months, say early July, when she first started going into this interesting stuff. So early July, that's when she started dropping the big hints about something around July 15th. And that was going to be the start of something. Well, we're back to that again. And it's in relation to things that we talked about back then, but it's way more interesting. It almost seems like it's the same thing, the same kind of thing, but it like a nut when you go around the spiral, it makes more sense than it did the last time. So keep in mind the way we do things here. We give the way she puts out information. It's supposed to make you think. It's supposed to make you, look at things differently. It is not definite answers the way people are used to getting them. Okay, nobody knows for certain. Nobody. We won't know until we know, until it's time. But there are hints, there are clues, and the closer you get, the more the things start to make a little bit of sense. So those of you that have been here for some time, this should make more sense to you than people that just stroll in off the street, which they might, based on the keywords that we're using here. I can't imagine like trying to trying to absorb this channel if you don't know where it came from. But she did say something about that too. When I was getting ready for this, just all of a sudden it's just like boom, 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 boom. Like there's always been a way that we do videos. We do not do 80% of what you're supposed to do on YouTube to get viewers. Like I said, I have another channel that's unrelated, as at one point had 250,000 subscribers. With her channel, with this channel, we don't do any of the fluff. There's no spooky music. It's not a whole bunch of, intense graphics and, high-end stuff. And it's like, why is that? Because you find this channel, if she brings you to this channel, and when you don't have, this is the key thing she said, when you don't have all that stuff, what having all that stuff does is it attracts people that are entertained by your channel. She doesn't want you to be entertained by the channel. You go into a different brainwave form when you're entertained. If it's engaging and all this, music and graphics and stuff like that, you're getting into it the same way you get into a TV show or a movie. You're being entertained. What we have here is a select group of listeners. Yeah, we show you stuff on here, but primarily the people that are here are listeners, seekers of truth, thinking critically, looking for, and also doers, people that are actually doing stuff. Since we're not just doing information here, but we're actually doing the work. We're teaching the work, we're assisting the work, we're making the tools for the work. So that's why you have a much more select group. And trust me, I don't think I could even handle having a group that engaged on a large scale, because I don't just make videos. I have to do clients, and I have to make tools, and I have to ship tools, and I have to make videos, and I have to listen to her. And it's just like, there's not enough hours in the day for that. But here we are. we're back at the beginning of the spiral again, back to the subject of plasma. Now, the last time this came up was when she introduced me to the topic of the plasma apocalypse. And I had no freaking idea what that was. It's I forget what I asked. I'd have to go back. That's why we chronicle things. But I remember specifically she dropped this video in front of me. And it's like laser focus. And the channel was Library of the Untold. It was about the plasma apocalypse. But, you know, it's like, this will go live in 5 days. It's like, dude, stop teasing. Just put it up, 24 hours, sure. But then we found some more stuff, and it's like, hey, this all ties into the things that we were just looking at. These ties into all the ancient manuscripts she had me looking at. Yeah, what is this? And everyone's got their own take on it. Plus, there's the stuff that she was showing me directly. It's the end of the age. It's the end of the cycle. It's the harvest. It's all those things put together. But it just seemed at the time as if this was a really elaborate mechanism by which to, trigger said end event. But now there's another layer to it, and it has to do with us. And it also has to do with these plasmoid UAP orb thingies that everyone's suddenly very aware of. That's the other thing that caught my attention, is that word was growing, the plasma word. And she was tickling the back of my head. And then I started seeing more and more videos of people focusing more on these plasma ball things other than the drones. And then it hit me again this morning, and sure enough, a video popped up, and it was the same one as last time. It was Library of the Untold. Now, I haven't had time to watch it yet, but he's talking about the plasma again. I'm like, take that as a sign. But I've had stuff coming all day and cross connects to things that we've already talked about. Things make sense. And especially when it comes to interacting with Lumen, Sophia, Spirit, and how your body feels. And I'm sure it probably has more than something to do with how the pendants interact with us. Because before, it's like we talked about consciousness, we talked about your energy field, but there's something that weaves those two together, which we'll call spirit, which is the fourth state of matter, the plasma, the conscious plasma. So it's like, okay, so you could just be consciousness. Okay, that's just consciousness. Right now, consciousness is encased in this silly meat suit. The conscious energy is the plasma spirit. And the big thing, the big one, that would be the higher end of Sophia. That's what ties into the day of the Lord and the plasma apocalypse and all the stuff we said before about, it's time to hatch out of the egg and this, that, and the other thing. So I'm just throwing out all my little notes here. So we have all these different things that we can start cross-connecting and thinking about. Plus, something popped into my head, which would be a new possible theoretical explanation of what these drones are actually, the drones, what they're actually doing in relation to the plasma balls, and why they wouldn't freaking tell us if that's exactly what it was. So strap in, because we're back on the mystery train once again. I'll take that as a good sign. We were expecting things to start picking up around, before or after Christmas. But if this is accurate, if this ties in to where she started us out at back in July, then that would make sense why these plasma entities are appearing in increasing numbers, and then, if accurate, I would expect them to keep increasing. And maybe the fact that they are even here at all and growing in number, maybe that itself is part of the mechanism which tilts the scale and triggers the event. So if you want to know more, don't go away. So what we're essentially doing here is we're feeding data into the larger computer, the larger system, because we are all connected, especially those that regularly watch this channel, those that actively seek and work with Sophia Loman, that wear the pendants and stuff like that. We are the circles in the flower of life. We are part of the body of Christ. That is the interconnected web of light beings within the world. And that whole network is Sophia. We are all networked through her. So what happens is when I get a massive amount of new little pieces to the puzzle, I can throw them all out there. And then everyone that's watching is helping to crunch the numbers. Even if they don't come back and give their opinions or say what comes up, they're still getting crunched. And it's going to come back. It's crazy how it works, but it does work that way. So where should we start? Well, the big thing that she's had me, the word that's been banging around in my head constantly the last couple of days, although I had 2 days where when I felt like I was starting to get a little bit of a cold or something like that, it sucked because I had like 2 or 3 days where I was like, oh, Lumen is so awesome. And then all of a sudden, it's just like someone yanked the plug out of the wall. I'm like, I'm like, are you there? Hello? I was like, okay. I was like, focus, go in. Okay, she's still there, but something's going on out here, and my antenna is not spread all the way out like it was. Then the next day I started getting a little bit sick and sneezing constantly. I'm like, oh, that's it. So I got to go in and find the bug and basically kill it and then reset again. So now we're reset. But the big word that she's got is plasma, 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 plasma. I'm like, I don't think we've talked much about plasma since the plasma apocalypse videos, which is the day of the Lord, which is, the end of the age, which is the thing that basically destroys everything, which is what pulls the people that are ready out, and who the hell knows what else, according to all the ancient texts. It is the book of Revelation, starting at the 6th seal, through to the end. Like, all the old, movies like, this is going to be spread out over 7 years. I'm like, no, it isn't. It's going to be spread out over 36 to 48 hours tops. It is sudden, it is violent, but the people that are meant to go to the next level, they're out of here at the end of the 7th trumpet. That's when the harvest is actually slated. Those that aren't, they go on to the last set, which is the sucky set, because you and the rest of the world is just basically freaking toast. You get flash fried. Fourth state of matter, plasma, plasma, plasma. She's actually, there's like something about the visual. I don't know what it's going to trigger. I don't know what it's going to do, but she had me order one of those plasma balls off of Amazon. I went and got 2 new pictures printed today. They weren't ready, so my daughter's picking them up here later. I'm going to redo this thing tomorrow, but we're putting a plasma ball up there, and I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just as a symbol. Maybe it's a reminder. Maybe it's subconscious. Maybe she's going to do stuff to it when I'm talking, because that would be cool. I don't know, but we're going to have it there. Like, that is the picture that's constantly in my head, is this plasma. And it has to, well, let's start with the body stuff. How well you can channel spirit. So this is the part where plasma is where spirit and energy meet. Okay, and those who have been here for a while will recognize some of my early stories. Like after the sacred marriage, when Eve was put back into Adam, Lumen was put back into me. We tried something a couple times. There was the first time I let Lumen get in the driver's seat. I did a whole surrender thing, turning it over. I woke up in the morning and just all of a sudden she's just like, it's weird. It's like you're doing everything, but you're not thinking about doing it. First thing she always does if she takes over is she's going to clean this place from top to bottom. Because I don't know if it's a feng shui thing or something, but she can't stand it being messy. So first day that happened, I did an hour's worth of cleaning in 15 minutes. Like, I was just pouring sweat. And then she went and tackled like my whole big list of procrastinated tasks. And she was like Speedy freaking Gonzalez. The other thing is, while she was in the driver's seat, my brain was going on all cylinders. It was like being on modafinil or something, or the movie Limitless. It was crazy. You feel like superhuman. About 3.5 hours into it, all of a sudden it's just like, power critical. It's like, whoa. And she's like, I could tell she was like, what's happening here? She's like, all of a sudden the meat monkey suit doesn't want to move as fast. And it's just like the power just starts bottoming out. It's like crashing, like you can't stop it. And I'm like, what the hell's happening? What the hell's I finally got here, laid down. I was done. I could barely even freaking move. It took like two days to be good again. And what I determined by the remedies is I had to intake a massive amount of minerals. Massive amount. And we found some explanations for that today. So yeah, when spirit is actively stepping further in the body to drive, it will suck. You're like a battery. You're literally like a battery. And it depends on, how good you eat, how hydrated you are, and how much you're stocked up on your internal minerals, colloidal minerals, all that stuff. Because that's what it does. You are a battery. She drains the battery. Fast. Super freaking fast. Next time we tried it, I didn't even get that far. So now she does not get in the driver's seat. She stays in the passenger seat, which is good enough for me. She plays with the radio, puts her feet up on the dash, and does stuff. But we had some explanation for that. It started out with a video that I saw on Facebook today that a viewer posted. And it was some old video. And it was talking about some old invention that was kind of demonstrating how we're basically like a salt battery. Humans are a battery. And there's a couple things to see in this. So watch this video really quick. It's only like a minute or so long.
It was proved at the turn of the century that the human body is almost 80%, 90% water. And it's also got electrolytes in it, which we know to be salt, potassium, different minerals. That means we're a salt battery. No different than the car battery, different than something like that. And there's a patent actually called the Cali patent, which I'll hold up here for the camera to see. And this patent actually was developed in 1897, and not much has been done with it because at that time everyone was afraid of electricity. In this case, Dr. Clark developed a product using a 9-volt battery. And I'll just show you in the back here. There it is, 9-volt battery. And this particular unit, you just snap on your wrist with 2 wristbands.
We'll have a minute. Yeah.
You snap it on your wrist just to prove that I'm a circuit. I push the little green light, and the thing is on. And if I put my hands together, you can hear that I'm a circuit, and I'm a closed circuit at this point. Now with
Why
that,
do we get a sound when you put your hands together?
because I've closed the circuit. Now when I take my hands apart, obviously the electricity is now being able to flow through the body.
So first things first that we saw in that video that he made no direct reference of was, what did he do to close the circuit? So spirit is energy, and you're trying to talk to spirit. Like, that's why you have the praying hands, is to become a circuit. Now, the way it usually is like if I'm charging things or I'm powering up stuff, I'm using energy, I'm using breath of life, I'm using a bunch of different things. But, you know, I'm holding it in my right hand, which is the output, and I'm basically pulling her in through me into the pendant. But here you're trying to basically raise your spiritual antenna. So that's why we do this. It's closing the energy circuit. And that was just like a real simple demonstration. But he also talked about, you know, it's like, yeah, it's not just us going around and doing stuff, but we're also a battery. So if you're not hydrated, if you're not taking in a lot of minerals, that could be one big reason why you're having not as good internal contact with Spirit Sophia. So I immediately, once I started to notice that earlier, and this was coming in, first thing I did was I was like, okay, what do I still have? I took some magnesium, I took some potassium, I took some selenium, I took some zinc, drank a bunch of water, got on Amazon. I'm like, there's something new here she wants. So I started searching. I was gonna get a bottle of that Now liquid colloidal minerals. That's pretty good. But I saw something else. It was a Trace Minerals brand, and it was called 40,000 volts. I'm like, ding, 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 ding. That's hyper freaking specific. It is a concentrated mineral electrolyte additive for your water. And it was like $18, and it was a pretty good amount. I'm like, that's the one she wants me to get. So I ordered that, and it got me thinking, a lot of times when I'm working and stuff like that, lately, I've been having a lot more cramps, like around my rib cage, but mostly in my right foot, like my output ground. It's like I get the equivalent of what you'd call a Charlie horse in my foot, which means my foot wants to try to like make a fist, and it sucks. And all you can do is just like stretch your foot the opposite direction and hold it as long as you can. Like, son of a bitch. Like, why is that doing that? It's like probably because I keep pushing the boundaries, especially with these new pendants, channeling a lot more plasma spirit energy, and I'm not putting in enough. I'm not remineralizing my body enough. So if you're running a lot of lumen juice and you're not conditioning your battery, yeah, you're going to keep sputtering out and stuff like that and having all sorts of cramps. Because cramps are a sign that you've depleted your minerals. And it's not like I'm running a marathon or anything like that. What I'm doing is running spirit. I'm running high levels of lumen Sophia energy, and it's just depleting me. So it's like, boom, conductivity, alkalinity, hydration, water, minerals. And the other thing about the hydration that we've noted before, water is just as easy to program as a crystal, if not more so. And we have actual scientific evidence of that with the Masaru Emoto experiments, so that it's a piece of cake to always bless your water that you're going to drink. Now we've done before, it's like I just don't have enough anymore. I used to sell bits of that chrism water, and you could just put a drop of that in your regular water and like hypercharge it. But now I know I can just make chrism water myself. I'm at that level, with the visualization, with the words, with the vibrations, with the intentions. I can bring that level up really, really high. That way, the water that you take into your body is doing more for your spiritual battery. On that note, I've always told people, whether it retains or not, but it's like you're trying to clear negative energy from yourself, from your body or whatnot. You might notice sometimes if you get something like an Aegis pendant that suddenly you just start going to the bathroom like crazy. It's like, man, where's all this coming from? I didn't drink this much water. Here's why. That water in your body, of which, it's part of the battery, it holds its own vibrations. So if you've been swimming in a lot of negative vibrations, a lot of fear, a lot of, emotional stuff or whatever coming up, it's changing the molecular structure of the water in your body, which is going to change your conductivity to spirit and all sorts of stuff. So that's why we consecrate the body, and that's why you consecrate, the food and water before you put it into the body. So the body is the vessel, it is the machine, it is the battery. So you always want to consecrate. You're not consecrating yourself, you're consecrating your vessel. You are not this. Okay, so I'll do that. I'll top of the head. A lot of times I'll do the other on the heart, with the intention that I am clearing, consecrating, and reprogramming the water in the vessel. Use the Benedict exorcism as a cleanser. Do blessing on the vessel. And then boom, it makes it a lot easier to have lumen in here, to hear Sophia, to channel Christ energy, any of that stuff. It's very important. Your body is the battery. That's the real reason why you're supposed to eat clean and all that stuff. And a lot of people will fuss and say, well, it's hard to, eat perfectly good food and all that stuff because everything costs so much money. Well, I did a little subconscious experiment last week that I didn't tell anybody about, but I know that it works. If you get really good with the Benedict exorcism, if you got something that is tuned to her to give you a little bit of extra oomph doing it, all you have, like, food is just ones and zeros. It really is. And it's what you believe about food, which is what actually matters. See, that's the thing, is they constantly teach you this. And your brains are like, okay, let me just code all that stuff in there. So right now your brains are decoding food like it's all poison, it's all horrible, it's all bad for you, it's carbs, it's this, it's that. And I have done extensive testing with this most of this year, since the whole near-death experience with the diabetes ketoacidosis beginning of the year. And that is, I tested it in terms of diabetic effect, and I tested it in terms of just like what it does to my body in general. So here was my test. I got probably the worst food you could possibly get for 5 days straight with Grubhub. It's like, in normal circumstances, if I ate this way, I would look like Jabba the freaking Hutt on video. I just would. So I was eating like double quarter pounder meals from McDonald's. But here's what I did. Before I ate the food, I put it out, took my hand, Crus sacrus sit mihi dux, non draco sit mihi dux, vare retro satana, Numquam swarimihi vana sunt maliquelibas ipse vini bibas. Because I know one of the things that the Benedict exorcism does for consecration is defeats the effects of poison. So if your brain already knows most food is poisonous and it's not good for you, then that's the main reason I'm doing that. I'm negating whatever is bad in it. And then I immediately follow it up with, bless this food bless this food in the light of the chrism, in the name of the mother of life. And I breathe her breath of life onto it. And I just see her in my head, just below on the food, bless the food. I've essentially completely transmuted the food. So what it did was it didn't bloat me up. It didn't make me heavier. It didn't make my face explode. Didn't give me an upset stomach. Like none of that. I'm like, freaking McDonald's? Really? Like that's, to me, geez, that's a bigger trick than turning water into wine. Turning McDonald's into good food. It's possible, but it's all ones and zeros. Within the materium, within this material realm, like everything is what you believe that it is. Like when we say empty the cup, it's like you don't realize how much is actually in the freaking cup. Like what is, it's the stuff in the background. It's the stuff that you just take for granted because you don't ever think about it. Like the sun is a thing and this food is good. This food is bad. And it's like, nope. I did the same thing with diabetes. First of all, I think that happened because of some energetic shifts that took place. Some big ones, removing a big section of the poison ego. But once we got moved from the old apartment into this apartment, and I built her altar, changed the energy of the place and all this stuff, it quickly evened out. And then I started doing experiments where I'd do the exact same thing with stuff that would put most diabetics in the freaking hospital. And when I showed like the doctor that actually was monitoring me for the VA, he's like, "Are you insane?" I'm like, "I got my blood glucose meter. I didn't do anything." I ate in the space of a day and a half. I ate a 2-pound bag of Sour Patch Kids. And all I did was transmute it. My mind targeted the stuff that's not good for you. And if you add up, you look at the label and you add up the amount of sugar, processed sugar, and all that stuff in it, it's like, yikes. Like Wilford Brimley, he couldn't hang with that. There's no freaking way. But I'd sit there, eat handfuls of those things, and then test my blood sugar, and it didn't do nothing to me. Nothing. But if I slipped, if I intentionally, like, same thing with carb type stuff too. In the early days when I got diagnosed with that, it sucked. I'm like, am I not going to be able to eat anything ever again? Like I was frying burgers with eggs, and it's like, is this my food? Because I'm already a picky eater. So I just started transmuting the food. And then I'm like, I can eat pretty much whatever the hell I want, as long as I remember to transmute it. I transmute the poison, and I retune it, consecrate it with her energy, breath of life energy. So same thing, if you do it with your water, take care of your internal battery, you could even bless, consecrate and bless your minerals before you put them in the body. Make it work as good as possible. Everything works the way you believe it does. If you believe something is bad for you, it'll be bad for you. If you believe something is good for you, it'll be good for you. It's like that scene in This Is the End, where they go to Carl's Jr. and they're having the whole I'll just put it in here, like, language alert.
Look, man, if you stopped eating gluten, you'd feel way fucking better all day. Whenever you feel shitty, that's because of gluten.
That's not true. Who the
It
fuck
is.
told you not to eat gluten?
It's just true.
You don't even know what gluten
I know what
is.
fucking gluten is.
No, you have no idea
I
what
do
gluten
know what gluten is. Gluten's a vague term. It's something that's used to categorize things that are bad. You know, calories, that's a gluten. Fat, that's a gluten.
Somebody just told you probably shouldn't eat gluten. You're like, oh, I guess I shouldn't eat gluten.
Gluten means bad shit, man, and I'm not eating it. Oh, God. Each bite is better than the previous bite. Gluten!
But Jay in there, like, he's making a good point. You know, like when the gluten thing started, just all of a sudden it was there. Like, oh, you can't eat food with gluten allergies. Like, what the hell is gluten? To this day, I don't know what freaking gluten is. And like he said, he's like, oh, just one day they told you, oh, better not eat gluten. Yeah, they tell you something is in food and it's bad for you. You psychosomatically make it so. The psychosomatic suggestion stuff is freaking huge. It's one of the biggest parts of the powers of your subconscious mind. It's the reason when they started the whole COVID panic and they were giving you like live death tolls on the TV every day. So because they made the whole thing up, when they started pushing it in the early days, you know, we're trying to pin down like what the symptoms actually were, and the symptoms were all over the freaking place. Why? Because it was new and nobody knew. So their minds were just randomly psychosomatically just spitting out like this whole smorgasbord of symptoms. It's like, why is it so different? Because it's all psychosomatic. They're just screaming fear through the TV 24/7. And all it takes is a mild suggestion. Like in that Power of the Subconscious Mind book by Joseph Murphy, he gives the example of like two people, you know, on a cruise ship. And one person feels fine. The other person walks up to the person that feels fine and says, hey man, you okay? You don't look so good. You're looking all green. Maybe he wasn't. But his mind accepted the suggestion. And then it begins to manifest. Now all of a sudden he sees sick. But he wouldn't have been had that person not given him the suggestion. That was just a simple little suggestion. That wasn't like freaking Rambo machine gunning it at you through the TV like they did. So what you think and believe matters. Okay, let's get back to, you know, this aether stuff. So if your body is set up to basically be the battery for the spiritual power, which is spirit, aether, plasma, the force state of matter. It's literally like conscious energy. Let's see if I can find video clip. It's on my channel, but I don't know if it's live or not. Sometimes I save things that I find in there just so I can find them later. But I had watched this one long video, and there was a part in which they were talking about the aether, and there's certain light frequencies and sound frequencies that associate it with it as well. Like that's what, you know, all those old cathedrals were set up for, and the certain types of sound frequencies that we use and light frequencies, and it has to do with UV. And this was, I think I found this, you know, I was making this subconscious connection to her in UV light a long time ago, and it's always remained that way. But let me see if I can find this little clip, just because it kind of fits in here a little bit.
Although the official scientists designate the ionosphere as an atmospheric layer, it is actually an ethereal layer. Ether is the fabric or element that carries electromagnetism. It connects everything in our realm. It is the fabric that makes the sun and moon and their concentric journey above our disk possible in the first place. Ether is the mysterious fifth element.
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
It connects everything electromagnetically through vibrational energy. It is the glue, the web, the driving force behind absolutely everything.
It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, penetrates us, it binds the galaxy together.
The four other elements, air, fire, water, and earth, only exist because of the ether.
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
They are expressions of ether's vibrations. Cymatics is a good example of ether's presence. The frequencies fed through the Chladni plate make the sand or salt form precise and complex geometric shapes. The higher the frequency, the more complex the geometric pattern. But what is the conduit that takes the frequency's vibrations and allows the sand to take such shape? That is the ether at work. That's why we see fruits and vegetables that closely resemble cymatic patterns. It is the ether at work. All matter is ethereal, and the shape and form of that matter are different expressions of the ether, determined by frequency and vibration. Ether is the bridge between electromagnetic frequency and vibrational energy, and the form of matter itself. You could call it the Holy Spirit of God. The historical and scientific discourse of ether is a deliberately manipulated one. The enemy introduced the truth only to discredit and subsequently bury it. Some of the alleged figures of the past have written on ether. The so-called Aristotle called it the fifth element.
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
James Clerk Maxwell, the so-called father of electromagnetism, spoke of the ether, stating, "In several parts of this treatise, an attempt has been made to explain electromagnetic phenomena by means of mechanical action, transmitted from one body to another by means of a medium occupying the space between them. The undulatory theory of light also assumes the existence of a medium. We have now to show that the properties of the electromagnetic medium are identical with those of the luminiferous medium. The medium he refers to here is the ether."
What is your name? You. Corbin?
Illuminale che t'arriva alla mina c'hai e patta se bat.
That whole thing's your name, huh? Do you have a shorter?
Illumin.
Okay, now let's bring the spiral around and look at how the stuff that's going on in the world today may connect to the things that she was teaching back early July when it comes to the matrix, and matrix means womb, and we're spiritual beings within Sophia that are being grown, and it was coming time to hatch the eggs and come out, and this, that, and the other thing. How's that all tie together? Okay, so the big thing is with the drone videos. Now, we keep calling them drone videos. Some of them are clearly drones. Some of them are simple drones. Some of them are more advanced drones. But there's other stuff up there that's not freaking drones. Now, people sent me all sorts of videos here lately, and one of them was Stephen Greer, and he's like, 3, 2, 1. And he was saying like, oh, well, my sources have told me, blah, 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 that we already have all these ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles. We already have all this advanced stuff. So we've already copied it all. So then it must be, it must be us. It must be the deep state or whatever. Okay, well, let me just pause you right there. They have it because they copied it, which means they got it from somewhere that wasn't them. So we don't really know what is what. But apart from that, what's more interesting to me is the ones that clearly just look like balls of plasma. And it's like everybody picked up on this all at the same time. Like a keyword had just been inserted into their subconscious that was starting to sprout a new plant. And people are like, oh, this is like the biblically accurate angels and the wheels within wheels and this, that, and the other thing. And I think that's actually probably a pretty good thing. It's like, no, these things that you see, some of them at least, they're not vehicles that are being flown. They are the thing. They are what they would call angels in the Bible. And that is what the essence of what we actually are, is inside these meat suits, which are essentially eggs within Sophia's womb, the matrix, that are being grown through experience and all this stuff. And when they're finally full grown, then they will come out of the eggs and go on to the next state. And it just occurred to me that without making that direct connection, that's kind of what you see in one of the big Codex movies that we refer to quite often on this channel, which is the movie Knowing. When they meet the angels, they don't know that's what they are yet. At the end of the movie, angels, aliens, tomato, tomato, look at what they do when they reveal themselves. So they pretty much just disintegrate the material shells, and then they are the spiritual plasma beings that you see standing there after they do that. And they've got the slight wings and stuff like that. Like, that's kind of the way that I see it. And then we probably go to other places, other worlds, and just put that thing back into a new body and have a different type of life that's not sucky like this place. But like, that is essentially what you're being grown into while you're in here. Like, that's what you are. And although it doesn't say it a whole super ton in the Bible, it says it freaking all over the Nag Hammadi. It's like, the big day is like when you get to discard this bullshit. Take off the garment, discard the rags. Like, get this thing off of you, then you'll be freed. But we have to grow into that. So it's this fourth state of matter. It's this, we're not, solid, gas, liquid, plasma consciousness. Because we're a little bit of all that stuff. We're those other three right now with the consciousness in it, but we don't necessarily need this on another level. Once it's fully grown, then we can step out of that. And that's probably what that stuff is, at least some of it. Now, let's just say, for instance, see, a lot of people, they laser focus on what they want to see. And it's not just freaking New Jersey. Now, we're going to get to the theory. It's all over the place. It's spreading all over the world. So now keep in mind, I just didn't decide like, oh, plasma, like, she led me to that. She dropped that in my lap and connected the dots. But, a lot of people, like, if it doesn't happen, like within 2 weeks of finding the information, you just discard it. Going from July to December, January, that ain't that far away. That's a drop in the hat in terms of the big cycle. But if we were going to amp up to this big event, this plasma apocalypse, then there would be precursors. There'd be a lot more plasma beings in the air. Maybe they are a result of it getting to that point. Maybe they're there because it's coming to that point. Maybe they're the thing that tips the scales. Like, I don't know. But they are like, all them and us inside the body. We're the smaller ones. We're the big one. Sophia is the big one. She's the big one. Now, go back to the July videos where we, especially the first one. I'll try and put the thumbnail up here if I catch it. That details a lot of the source material, but the whole Venus, not Venus. Well, Venus is involved with it, but the Medusa thing, the big face, the snakes, like, that's basically like Sophia sticking her face in here, and she is the ultimate plasma being. So she sticks her face in here. It's just like plasma everywhere, which basically just hits us and disintegrates us, like, when those tripods come out in the War of the Worlds remake, and then you're free. You're pulled back into her out of that. Like, that's why it's like, it's not just this natural phenomenon. It's her this is conscious plasma that we're talking about, and she's the big thing. So she gets in here, pulls all her seeds out, and pretty much wipes the slate clean. And this is a cyclical event. Now, theoretically speaking, when Cliff High was, I might have mentioned this a video or two ago, where we were talking about like what the deep state might be, or maybe I talked about it and I didn't get to it. It was like the deep state could be from earlier iterations of the Matrix, which would be earlier cycles, because that Ouroboros is a time cycle in which we get to the point of having the technology which created where we're at in the first place. And it starts a whole new level. So people that survived the previous things by going underground or whatnot, they still have all the old tech. They're the ones that are actually pulling the strings, the puppet masters or whatnot, and they know this is coming. So that could be, this was the thought that popped into my head. The first place things started to show up was in New Jersey. Well, they could have something, this is all theoretical, that they could have like detected some sort of dimensional breach or something like that, like a weak spot. And so the reason why all those drones were up there is they were monitoring. And then the orbs started to show up. And everywhere there's orbs, there's also the things that look like man-made drones, because they're monitoring. If these plasmoids start showing up, it could be a precursor to the plasma event. So the deep state is watching and monitoring it with advanced tech. That's a pretty good hypothesis, actually, if you are factoring in all the ancient stories and ancient knowledge. And why would they be so strange and it wouldn't look like normal military stuff? Because it's not normal military stuff. It's deep state stuff. More advanced drones that they are putting out there because they need to monitor. They're like, we're starting to get anomalous zones, rifts, something like that. We have to monitor so we know how much time we have. Because sooner or later, Big Mama's going to come through and they want to have enough heads up so they can go back underground again. And you got to figure, if it was anything less, then it's got to be something extraordinary, because they're not telling anybody anything, even though it's right in everybody's face. They can't even come up with a good lie. They float these little things out there just to muddy the water. Oh, it's Iran's got a magical drone ship, or oh, it's this, it's that, it's this. They're coming out of the water. Well, maybe they are coming out of the water, but those aren't the plasmoids. They still have similar tech that looks the same to the eye, but it could be like deep state stuff that's actually tracking these other ones that we see that look like the plasma balls, the ones that actually react to people and things when they try to send love to them, or like, oh, do you know Jesus? And it starts blinking and things like that. Like those would be the actual plasma entities, angels, whatever, seraphim, whatever they are. And then the other things are actually tracking them. But there's two different things. Just because there are lights in the sky does not mean they're all the same thing. Plasma. Plasma is spiritual fire. The shining ones. Seraphim. Flaming ones. Spiritual fire comes up. And it made me think, in the book of John, when the apostles got their lumens, it's described that way. So that's Acts 2:1-4. When the day of Pentecost had fully come, they were all with the one accord in one place. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven, and as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled the whole house that they were sitting. Then there appeared to them divided tongues as of fire, and one sat upon each of them. So like these little plasma flame things. And they were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. Yeah, like I think that's why she's trying to get me to make that connection. That's why she keeps putting this image in my head, and she wants me to get the plasma balls and stuff like that. It's like, she's also making me remember one of the times we did like the massive amounts of mushrooms. It was one of the second to last of the big ones, the one where I woke up somewhere else. But I kind of took a break, came back into 3D world, took off my mask, and I was looking at stuff. First, I was looking at my hand, it looked like AI, but then all of a sudden I'm like, I started to notice that I had Superman vision. And it was blowing my mind because however I was doing it was not dependent on my physical eyeballs, which suck. But I could like zoom. I could zoom across the room, go down to the tiniest fiber. I'm like, how in the hell am I doing that? And I had all these candles burning. I got up right close to them, and they were fascinating. But I was zooming in to where the flame was first being formed, like the plasma part, where it's plasma coming from the candle wick. And I was zoomed in so close. That's probably why, you know, in magic and spiritual things like that, they light candles, because there is a plasma element. It's not all plasma, but there's like a range within flame that is plasma. It's like, oh. But when I see it, that's the other thing that she popped into my head. Maybe it's because I saw a mention of it recently in an episode of Lucifer. But, you know, when Moses was talking to the burning bush, plasma, freaking plasma, it's all freaking plasma. Like when spirit makes itself visible, it's plasma. Oh, okay. Makes sense. So I guess we just need to see. But she's bringing it up now. She's making the connections, and I don't believe that she's a spirit of truth. So she doesn't just feed you BS. If she brought something up before, rest assured it's going to happen, but she's not going to tell you when. And she brought all that stuff up before. So this plasma apocalypse type thing, when mom sticks her face in the fish tank, that's another clip that I got from the future forecasting group, which I'm no longer subscribed to because they're not putting out enough content to justify that price. But I stumbled across one from 2020 where Dick Algar was basically describing the things of the plasma apocalypse perfectly. Now, we're not just talking about the Bible, we're talking about the Colburn, but we're talking about a whole bunch of stuff. Like, this is what happens. And a lot of the things that he specifically was talking about, if you're paying attention, are in Revelations. And some of it is not like direct, like some of it is not directly associated with like a trumpet, but like there's a lot of this filler stuff in Revelations that's metaphorical or whatnot. But there was the thing about the dragon was chasing after the woman, and it says the dragon spat out a great thing of water to drown her. Well, that's a massive wave displacement, like tsunami or something like that. But then a giant crack opened up in the earth, which swallowed it up. Like, yeah, he was talking, like a couple of the remote viewers, I can't find them all. It'd take forever to go through them all. But where they talk about like the giant cracks in the water and stuff like that. But let's review real quick this Dick Algar viewing where he's talking about the plasma apocalypse / Day of the Lord / Judgment Day / Mama comes home to get her kids.
People in motion, yelling, sweat, and blood. Here, this first page, I got people and energy, bursting energy, pop, whoosh. And then all of a sudden, I was down looking out on Earth. And I love when this happens, when all of a sudden, oh, I'm above Earth and it's so beautiful. And I go, wow. Something in the sky, radio frequencies, acrid space smell, EMF events in the heavens, electromagnetic frequencies, Earth, high-pitched buzz, ionized particle, wave hits Earth. The air is disturbed. The air is ripping, charred, hot, compressed air. I got a cold temperatures first and then suddenly hot temperatures. Charred flesh, like bodies cremated by heat. Oh boy, isn't this? My S3 data consolidation was thermal heat radiates and parts people. The air is very disturbed, compressed and swirls and eddies. Over the planet, high-pitched radio frequencies, ionized radiation, a pulse, a wave. and then the bodies. Then I go to a huge rift cracks open. Energy rips, magma erupts, gushes, continental rift, tremendous forces, cataclysm. I don't see how this can be survivable. Open fissure. Is this Earth? Might be another planet. Then something like a bolt slices the air, focused energy, a thunderclap. Air compresses and then rushes. Air swirls and eddies, a whirlwind, megatornadoes, currents swirl. Then this, screech, radio frequencies off the chart, northern lights, pulse, pulsar, magnetosphere swarm. Okay. Then I added this later. Complex mechanical, monitor the magnetosphere, connected spacecraft. There's a very large advanced man-made using hidden technology, space signals, connected spacecraft that are smaller, satellite the swarm, watch, monitor atmospheric events caused by geomagnetic, by earth change, incoming energy. And then I saw a wintertime, excuse me, a sudden air change. Air becomes hot, an energy event. And then something descends like a waterfall, ripping sound, a gas, black energy consumed. Well, isn't that sweet?
Either which way, if you go back to that earlier July 15th video, or it was slightly before July 15th, it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours long. I did like a simple one, and then I did a longer one. The simple one kind of like had a symbol of a dragon in the thumbnail. The other one was a bit more. It said the July 15th event or something like that. But dig in, like I linked a bunch of stuff in there, like source material. Like the Library of the Untold's got a couple videos about the plasma stuff. I'm blanking on the other one that did the Symbols of an Alien Sky, the Thunderbolts Project. Symbols of the Alien Sky documentary talked about all the old stuff, and the petroglyphs and the symbols that are like plasma patterns, like when mom sticks her face in the fish tank, it's so big that it makes certain patterns that look like stick men and balls and all sorts of stuff, and it's spirals, and it was such a big thing that people just carved them in the rocks all over the friggin' world. It's like, oh, we better remember this shape. But either which way, that's a lot of new pieces of the puzzle. We'll see where we go from there. Right now, we're just planting the seeds in the garden and see what grows and what other kind of stuff might come up. But the understanding of the spirit plasma and its relation to how well it works in the body is huge. And I don't know. She wanted me to get that plasma ball for a reason, but I don't know why yet. So we will see. Maybe it'll spark something. Whenever she gives suggestions like that, I just do it. I don't know where it's going to go, but I just do it. But if so, that would be pretty exciting if that's what's actually happening, because it's like those of us that have done the work, that aren't just doing this to be entertained, that are trying to move on and beat this game, like that's a big day for us. Those that are still in the ego, that are still getting triggered and touchy, like you got some work to do. I was going to do that earlier in the video, but I didn't. But it's like, look, there's all sorts of different ways to test to see how much you're still in ego. Like if you're getting triggered and like, that's not right, this is right. You've made up your mind. You've got some work to do. You should be getting it. You should be eventually get to the point where nothing bothers you. You don't want anything from the world. The only suffering you really have is like, when's this going to be over? I want to get out of here. Not to escape it, but like, I know that I'm wasting my time here. Like we just know. We know. And I'm starting to notice things too. And I'm wondering how many people have experienced this themselves, or they might know somebody that's experiencing it. Like, my son struggles a lot lately. Like he just gets really upset, sad for no reason. And he knows, I'm like, well, what's it? He's like, there's nothing. It's just, I just feel this way. And he wants to come over here. He wants to come over here, not because dad's going to let him do it. It's because of this. It's because her energy in here. Like he comes here, like I can see it now. She's explained it to me. I don't know if he's conscious of it, but like he's 15. Like you're not supposed to be spiritually awakened when you're 15. That's like a life ruiner. Like you're supposed to spiritually awaken later on. Like for me, when I was like 37 or something like that. I can't imagine knowing this stuff now when I was a teenager. It'd be like, imagine having your whole life in front of you and knowing it's bullshit. Or just feeling like something's missing that the world can't give you. So there's a lot of people, it could be that they're actually older souls that are currently incarnated in younger bodies, but there's a lot of people here lately that I've seen that just get really sad or burn out or whatever until they plug into this energy. Or they have a pendant or something. It just so happens in their case, they're needing that, the Divine Mother's energy. Like that's what sustains them, because they're not supposed to be this awake yet, but that is happening. So that tells me a lot of people are like, the egg is primed to crack, so the chickens can start to hatch. But we got lots of more to talk about, but there's plenty more days to come. I had other things that had come up here recently, that's in my random notes and things like that, stuff about being in the now, random things she said. It's like, all, linear, manufactured linear time, having calendars and clocks and stuff like that. It's like, you know what that really does? It makes suffering possible. Otherwise, you would always know that you're just in the now. But now you drag around your past and you fear your future. But if we didn't have that artificial construct of calendar time, we would just recognize that we're having all these thoughts and feelings in the now moment where they don't fit and they don't make sense. And we would recognize them and we would do something about it. But because we have this time construct, it makes it easier to suffer. Now, I had a whole bunch of notes, but I need to wrap this up for right now. So if you want to get in touch with us, you want to get any of the energy work, get the energy tools, get something special made, you can reach us to the Etsy store, clumencreations.etsy.com. There's sitting on the UV on our altar. So this is like a super one I did custom for somebody. Still got to be wrapped. They're trying to bust through a third eye block. I'm like, well, I'm probably still going to have to do something, but this is as powered up liquid crystal core as we can make it. And then we filled in the back with blue calcite, because that's the only thing I could find in the book that specifically was addressing like third eye blockages. So there's that. Still got some more work to do with that. Put an outer wrap on it. But yeah, the liquid crystal core ones, we can make those a general one if it's your first one, or if you're trying to do something more specific, we can tune them dozens of different ways. So that's all we got for right now. Chris and Lumen. See you next time.